Hello, this video, not message. This video is from Mrs. Vaughn's English 11 class. The lesson I'm going to discuss in this particular video is for Tuesday, the 31st of August. You should be seeing the lesson plans that you got from me for the week. We're going to talk a little bit about the composition, but I don't have a lot of digital teaching aids to give you good visuals with those. You're just going to have to read through it. I will sort of give you some of the highlights as we go through it, but not too much time on that. We'll do a little grammar exercise that reviews what we've been talking about in grammar. And then we have our spelling list. Spelling I'm doing a little bit differently this year because I found that spelling is such a struggle for a lot of students. I'm actually going to go through the 31 spelling rules that apply to about 98% of English. I know a lot of us has probably been told and learned that there are just a lot of exceptions in English. That's actually not true. There are rules that will always work with very, very small exceptions. So I'm going to go through those spelling rules with you guys. There's 31 of them, so we'll go through them throughout the year and kind of learn them together. So we'll go over that first here in a second. Your vocabulary list is from your textbook. It's on page vocabulary list 1 on pages 10 and 11. I really would like for you to focus a lot on the Greek words that these come from, but also the synonyms and antonyms are going to be very important for you guys. So you will need your book for that, but you can ignore the spelling list that's in the textbook for now. And then we just have one page in American literature I need you guys to read tonight. So let's go ahead and start off with grammar. Let me new share. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Spelling rules. Okay, so you guys should see this. Let's start with spelling. The spelling rules that we have this week are rules 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going to go in order through the list as we go through it for the next, probably this semester into next semester. We'll see. So rule 1 is that C always softens to an S sound when it's followed by the vowels E, I, or Y. Y, whether it's being used as a vowel or not. And then otherwise, C is more of a K sound. It's a hard C sound. Rule 2 is that G may soften to J only when followed by E, I, or Y. Otherwise, G says G, which is like angle, Galatians. We'll look at the examples there. And then rule 3 is that English words do not end in I, U, V, or J. And I've put some examples of those words and their origin so you can see where they come from. They are part of the English vernacular. We use them on a regular basis, but it would be good to recognize the fact that they're not English-based words because they don't end in I, U, V, or J. I did put a little sentence in there for the exceptions to this rule. I and you are very special. The only exceptions to this rule are I, you, and thou. All right, so let's get into the spelling list really quick. So we have celebrate, medicine, and emergency. Those all give you examples of C ending in E, I, or Y. And you can hear that celebrate has that S sound. It's very on the front of the tongue. And then you have Colorado, caffeine, and recurred, all of which are followed by O, A, and U, which is when we use that harder K, C sound. So it's Colorado, caffeine, and recurred. Rule 2 regarding the G is you have apologize and clergy and angel. So you have that J sound to those 3. Whereas because they're followed by Y, E, and I. But then this is a big difference. I saw this with more than one student in geometry last year. They spelled angle as angel. So angel means that the E is right after the G because it is softening that G to more of a J sound. Whereas angle, you have that G sound. It's much deeper in the throat, in the back of the mouth. And so you've got that angle, Galatians, because it's followed by an I, and guilt. So that's why you know that guilt is going to have a GU sound. then the ILT because of the way that we pronounce the G. And then just a couple of words here that, well, we pretty much know that spaghetti is going to be Italian, right? Because that's the food that's based out. Chai is actually Arabic in origin, although there's also some references that say that it's more Russian, but it is referring to the tea, but it's an Arabic origin, the word chai. And then we have impromptu, which means to sort of do something spontaneously, but impromptu is French in origin. So that's where your spelling list comes from. Again, continue to study these words and understand the spelling rules themselves. There will be questions on your spelling test, not only spelling the words, but being able to explain the rules to me as well. All right, so let's look at something else. Let's go ahead and move on to grammar before we move on to composition and literature. I'm actually going to go ahead and work the homework assignment. Hopefully you guys can pause the video and do this yourself. Please do yourself a favor and make sure you can do it on your own. But this is essentially the activity that I was going to do in class, just with a different word. So we've been studying parts of speech and how they can be used. And so some examples that I have here for the homework are writing sentences using the following words or the forms of the words as the part of speech indicated. So say you're using help as a verb, you can always use it in a different form, like I helped my mom move the furniture, something. So if we use the verb form, then, we could say, please, let's underline it. Please help me with my homework. Okay, you guys are also turning this homework sheet in. So I want to see different examples on your page. I'm going to save mine. So you need to have different words on here, but you can see at least through as I work through this, what I'm asking for. All right, so help is a noun. Let's see. We could do, there's a lot of examples of this in the Bible. The Lord is my help in time of trouble. Let's see. Dad had the hired help move the brush out of the yard, something like that. So we can do that, use help as a noun. So I'll just say the Lord, one of these days, and remember, is our help in time of trouble. All right, because in this case, help is a predicate nominative. It's answering the Lord is what? The Lord is help, so it's acting as a noun. All right, what about adjective? A lot of times with adjectives, we put full on the end of a word. Like beauty goes from beauty being a noun to beautiful, which is an adjective. You could do this with help. You could also talk about help desk if you are making a sentence about like IT. I'm just going to say the helpful student handed out the graded papers. Right. And interjection, interjection is, or when you, I think of it as interjecting emotion into a situation. So you could very easily, it's just help. I didn't underline it again. Help. I'm drowning. Something like that. You have a lot of different options you can use there. All right, so let's look at move. So move, we think of move as an action word. So I think the verb part of this is probably the easiest. So you can say, please move your desk to the other side of the room. So we have move as a verb. There's an understood you there. All right, so as a noun, think about move as a noun. you could talk about somebody dancing, like his moves were smooth or something. Or you could talk about moving, like when we talk about relocating homes, we talk about move. You could say our move last year was difficult. All right. And then what about move as an adjective? Ouch. There's different ways you could do this. A lot of times we turn a verb into an adjective when we use it as like an adjective clause. So, or an adjective phrase. We could say, the stone or the boulder moved by the earthquake crushed 3 houses on its way down. It's a little dramatic, but you could also say, how about let's stick with the move theme that I have here and say the moving van, again, take a minute. The moving truck was full of our stuff. I don't know, something like that. All right, so I've used the word move and it's in a different form. I've used it as it's a participle here describing the truck, but it's still being used as an adjective because it's describing a noun. All right, so now we have stone. So stone is a verb. Well, we have biblical references, right? Oh, excuse me. So if we use stone, then we could say the community leaders tried to, no, that's not. No, that's not. Were stoning. I don't know. Let's think. The guilty men. We'll do that. Or women. Seems more common in the Bible anyway. But I know, well, I think Stephen was stoned for his testimony. So, it was definitely, unfortunately, a common practice there. All right, so stone as a noun. That's pretty easy. The stone skipped across the water. There we go. So stone is acting as the subject, therefore it must be a noun. All right, so if we look at it as an adjective, we could say, what do we have? We have stone walls. I'll probably use that one. Whoa, that was weird. The stone wall was slowly crumbling. And I just put that in the wrong place. Oh my gosh, y'all, jack this up. All right, now I'll have that other one here somewhere. All right, so that's just a refresher for you guys to make sure that you understand how words can be used as different parts of speech, but how to recognize those parts of speech in a sentence. So do that with your own sentences, and then we'll move on to section 2, the parts of a sentence later. So right now we're just doing parts of speech. All right, so the next assignment that y'all have for your homework is you still need to choose a book for your first book report. I'm just going to push this back until we get back in class. So next Tuesday, if you're bringing your own book, I want you to bring it to class on Tuesday. So you have a week from today to find a book. And these are the requirements for it. It needs to be 200 to 300 pages long. It needs to be something you've never read before. It needs to be a high school reading level. And then you can pick from these 4 categories. And then, yeah, so we're going to move that approval instead of September 1st. It's going to be September 7th. Right. Nope, September 8th, Wednesday. Okay. But bring them to me on Tuesday. Let me take a look at them. That way you've got an extra day if they don't work. And of course, I'm going to have plenty for you guys to pull from if you have trouble finding something. All right, so since we're talking about writing book reports, let's go ahead and quickly look at the writing process, which is what that section 30, what is it, 43. Let me move back to this really quick. This composition 43.1 to 43.4 at the end of your book. I've got some little tabs that, I don't know if you can even see my screen. These little tabs here that you can put in there. I've got one marking that section. But this talks about compositions. None of this is new because I'm pretty sure all of y'all have been at JCA long enough to go through a couple of English classes. And I'm teaching this process in 7th and 8th grade. So you should be pretty familiar with it at this point. But there are 4 main steps to the writing process. The first one is you plan. So the planning, in the case of a book report, the planning involves reading the actual book. And get like a pack of these little tabs. And every time you see something that you feel like is key to the plot of the book or to the character development or anything important, then put one of those little tabs on that page. That way you've got kind of quick references and you're like, something important is here. Let me find it. Please don't underline or highlight in my books, but you can certainly use those tabs. And you can write on them. So you can say character or plot or theme or whatever. Okay, so with any other thing like research, you need to get all of your information and get a really good idea about the subject that you're writing on before you actually start writing. So this does mean finish the book before you start writing. I don't care if you dog ear my books. So if you don't have the tabs and you want to use a little dog ear, that's okay. That doesn't really bother me. But if it's your own, obviously do whatever you want to do. So that's kind of the important thing. Get all your information first. Plan what you're going to write about first. Because as you gather information, a lot of times you will find like a flow of information, like whether it's a timeline or a process of steps, whatever. All right, so moving on. 43.2, the writer writes. Now your first rough draft, the reason we always try to have a rough draft is because after you've gotten all your information and you've studied it and you've read about it, you really want to write your first draft just as quickly as possible. Like if you're doing a timeline, go ahead and think about it as it happens and just write everything as much. You're not checking all of your absolute detail facts. You're just getting like the overall impression of the subject matter down on paper. And the key to doing this, if you're doing it handwritten, which hopefully you're not doing, hopefully you're typing it, but if you're doing it handwritten, do it double spaced because you're going to want to write notes and as you go through the next process and rewriting. So do it double spaced or do it typing double spaced so that you've got a lot of room to kind of write and make notes as you go. Don't worry about spelling. Don't worry about punctuation. This is about content. It's about getting your ideas down on paper. Then the third part is where you come in and clean it up and maybe reorganize it. So the first draft is done. Your second one comes in and you're really looking at the content and the flow. So you rewrite by looking at it as a whole. You're still not worried necessarily about grammar and punctuation and spelling and all of that. Right now, you're again looking at content and thinking, did I talk too much about this particular element of my subject, but then only have like 2 sentences about another element that's just as important? That's where you look at kind of the flow of your writing and does it make sense? Do you need to kind of put facts in different order? You're looking for the coherence, the unity, and the emphasis of your paper. Then you turn around and edit. So once you've got it where it's got a nice flow, you've read it aloud to yourself, you've gotten everything reorganized in a way that makes sense, then you start going back and editing. That's when you look at your spelling and your punctuation and your sentence structure and all that really fun nitpicky stuff. So I'm just putting that out there because we're going to start writing soon. And This process may apply to even something as simple as an essay, and certainly something as large and complicated as a research paper. So this should be a process you're familiar with. If you're not, familiarize yourself with it and make sure that you're kind of aware of that process and understand what it means to actually do it. Let's see, I'm trying to think if what is next? So we talked about spelling rules, we talked about grammar, we talked about composition. All right, so pretty much all that's left is for you guys. You guys need to read page 9 of your American literature book. This is an excerpt from a very, very famous American orator. He was very politically active before and during the Civil War. Well, no, he didn't quite make it to the Civil War. He was actually kind of the reason why the U.S. did not end up in a civil war until later in the 1800s, because he was a very good speaker, did a lot of debates with some of the Southern politicians. Sorry, hey, looking rough today. But this one is Liberty and Union. Daniel Webster was very much a Unionist. He believed in the solidarity of the United States of America. And I'm pretty sure that before the Civil War, we were considered the United States in America. There's something different that changed about the verbiage. The US was still very states focused, because, you know, so many people were still influenced by those ideas of fear of tyranny of a strong central government because of the monarchy in England. But Daniel Webster, he believed that the only way the United States could survive was if it stayed as a whole country, even as it was expanding into an enormous territory. You can just look at some pictures of even Europe over the US, much less a country as tiny as England over the US. I think it's the size of like Iowa, Missouri, and maybe Arkansas. That's it. So read this. It's not the easiest to read, but you should still be able to get the concepts of it. And what I want you to do, and this will prepare you for tomorrow's homework assignment as well, is I want you to answer question 3, which is to give examples of effective imagery that expresses the danger of disunion. And you will see that he talks a lot about the dark abyss, or he says the depth of the abyss below, and let's see, land rent. There's quite a few. I just can't find one right now. It's very dramatic. I think he was in this particular speech, he was debating someone from Senator Robert Hayne of South Carolina. So he's very much arguing for the North and South. And actually there was a very sort of East and West, because we were fighting over some of the states out West, Kansas and Nebraska, and fighting over whether there were slave states or free states. And so he was very much like, we need to be unified as a nation, not squabbling as individual states. So he gives a lot of examples of like what the condition of our country would be in if we did end up breaking up and the states became individual countries. So think of the imagery that he uses as he goes through this. So, all right, that's pretty much all I have. And I'll have another video for you guys for tomorrow, because we need to talk about the essay. And again, this is going to be short. Like when I say essay, I mean like maybe a full page handwritten if you've got big handwriting. So not a lot, but we need to talk about the structure of it, and we need to focus on having it organized and structured properly. So we'll get into that later. Either way, you guys reach out to me, email or text message if you have any questions, and I will see you guys later. Bye.